So, what are the top 20 runs that I suggest you collect? Well, for those under 100, let's start off with Silver Surfer, Ghost Rider, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., all select, Man Thing, all in any EC titles, all winners, another timely issue. Comics Cavalade from the Golden Age, Prince Namor the Submariner from the Silver Age, Micronauts, Dracula, Eternals, New Gods, Nova, Omega the Unknown, Howard the Duck, Metal Men the first series, Teen Titans the first series, Oz from Caliber Press, an incredible series, Solar from Valiant. So those are pretty much the ones that I suggest could be great collectibles for you. As you notice on our list, there is a series of dollar signs that follow each one of these. The reasons for those dollar signs is to give you an idea of the cost. And I've segregated them as inexpensive, affordable, won't break the bank, and sit down first. Obviously, sit down first is going to be pretty expensive. So guys, I hope that this list helps you come up with some ideas of what it is that you'd like to collect and why short runs, especially these short runs, can be extremely valuable in the long term. Most of these are characters that have either had several series after them or are having series currently generating a lot of interest due to films or even re-releases. I hope you've enjoyed this list, and there'll be many more to come.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that list. And by the way, there are a couple of other short runs that you could get that weren't even mentioned. For example, one that comes to mind is the Champion series from the 70s that Marvel produced. Great series. It's actually being redone or has been redone several times. And there's a lot of talk about it possibly being part of the MCU. Now, what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes showing you a couple of the short runs that I love. And maybe you'll begin to understand how you can get great enjoyment from not just chasing keys, but from actually spending your time and dedicating your time to finishing and completing runs. What you see here is Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider that you're looking at is the version that started off in the 1960s by Marvel. This Ghost Rider originally was a Western superhero that was developed in the 50s and had the fabulous art of Frank Frazetta. The one you see before you is a Dick Ayers. Dick Ayers also drew Ghost Rider in the 50s, and the Ghost Rider was very popular. It lasted several years. In the 70s, Marvel revived him prior to the Ghost Rider on the motorcycle. And this run is actually quite short and I think spectacular. That's Ghost Rider number one. Here's Ghost Rider number two. I have the entire collection, and this collection has been one that I've done recently. It wasn't one that I've had for a long time. I started getting enamored with the Western Ghost Rider several years ago when I first discovered Frank Frazetta's work on him. Frazetta's work is very, very expensive on Ghost Rider and one of his most popular runs. So I've not gone into that yet, although I will. And I've already started getting into some of the 50s Ghost Riders. As you can see, the artwork is beautiful. And not only is it beautiful, but it's very, very different than what was going on in the 70s to a large degree. Because it was a Western, even though it had overtones of a superhero. And not all of my issues are in perfect condition. As you can see, this one has a little bit of damage up here. But I've tried to get them as close to mint or near mint as I can, given the limitations and the scarcity. Now, although I don't have the entire run, I wanted to put Oz number one up because I believe Oz is overlooked by many collectors, and it's actually a fabulous series that was created by Caliber in the 80s. And the artwork is by Bryson or Brian. Brian is an excellent artist. I have some of his original art, and if you go to my original art video that I did earlier on this year, you'll see some of the examples. Actually, pretty spectacular work, and it is a short run. That lasted, I think, maybe 30, maybe 40 issues. Omega, which you see here, this is issue number one. This is also a short run issue or series. Just under 20 issues. Omega was not very successful in its time. It's going to be making a reappearance. So I wanted to show number one here. I've not yet gone out and collected them all, but he is a target. Now, if you ever wanted to know which was one of my all-time favorite series, you have it here. Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer to me was one of the crowning achievements of Stan Lee. Found this series back in the time it was originally released. This is probably the third time I have the complete series. Silver Surfer, the Buscema series, I think was just spectacularly drawn. If you saw my video on the history of comics, one of the ones I did, I covered the Silver Surfer and Stan Lee. And one of the things that Stan Lee said about the Silver Surfer was it was probably what he considered to be his greatest work. Now, not everyone believes that the Silver Surfer was Stan Lee's greatest work, obviously due to the that's a CGC. So I'll try to give you guys a view of the ratings on whichever ones are CGC. Not all of them are CGC. But the what Stan Lee basically said was he thought it was his greatest work, and he felt that the Silver Surfer was the only character that actually was defined by his own personality. In other words, he felt he was the Silver Surfer. A lot of the Surfer's qualities, this is issue 6 that you see before you, and they're actually spectacular. These 25-cent issues were extra large. They weren't the same as the standard issues you would normally see at the time that were running 15 cents, because the Surfer was one of those comics that actually ran in the 15-cent time of comic books. That was very short-lived. That's an 8.0, and I'm sorry for the glare there. It's not necessarily a great position because of the light overhead, but at the end, the Surfer was one of what Stan Lee felt was one of his crowning achievements. And I've got to say that I feel pretty much the same way. I think, I mean, this issue, for example, is a spectacular issue in its condition. I would rank this probably a 9.4, just because of the quality of the paper, the tightness of the spine, the lack of spine ticks. I mean, this is one of probably the best issues I've got. Some of the stories of the Surfer were a bit offbeat. I mean, here's one example. This is a 7.0, a very nice 7.0, and I've got to say that over the years, dealing with CGC, I've noticed that not all ratings are the same. Sometimes some are better than others. This to me could have easily been an 8.0. And what I mean by rating, I mean grading. This one, you cannot see it. It's an older label. But this is a 7.0. Again, spectacular quality of this issue. Maybe I can turn it a little bit this way, get it closer to the screen. And if you can see, there's absolutely no spine ticks. How this was a 7.0 is beyond me. Here is issue 11, 6.0. Unfortunately, the glare in the bag on this one makes it a little tough to see, but this is another incredibly tight comic. Here's issue 11, and I'm sorry that these are in these bags, but they are sealed, and I did not want to have to open the seal. This one, as you can see, is a 6.5. Again, I think that they're actually undergraded in many cases. Here is number 13, 7.0, and I'll try to get the. I mean, if you can see the grades here are actually very, very. I would say very. The grading was incredibly harsh. I think some of these would even rank high.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this series on short runs. Short runs has been something I've been doing since I started collecting. To be honest, the very first short run I focused on, besides the Surfer, I think the Surfer was likely either the first or the second, was Man Thing. And I was fascinated by Man Thing. I thought it was a fantastic series. And I collected the entire run, and I felt very fortunate to be able to say that I had an entire run at the time because runs weren't common. Today, many runs start and stop, and you get reboots happening all the time. During the 60s and early 70s, reboots were not common, and when runs tended to die, they stayed dead. Um, again, I think in today's world, the method of collecting has gone more into the realm of collecting keys. And I don't think there's anything wrong with collecting keys. I just think it's nice when you have an entire run that you can say you own the whole thing, right? And in today's world where there's runs that are 700, 1,000 issues, um, that's pretty crazy. I mean, investing in a run like that not only takes a lot of money, but takes a lot of time. Even reading it. I mean, if you consider a comic book to take you, I don't know, 30 minutes to read, you tried to read 800 comics, that's a big chunk of your life. So I think when you have these short runs, you can really appreciate them more. I think they're much more easily attainable. If you go into the golden age, you're going to find that there's a lot of short runs. There were a lot of runs that had their day. One other run that I'll bring attention to is Plastic Man. If you look at DC re-released him in the 70s, I think in the late 60s, and it didn't last very long. And it's actually well sought after. So there's many runs. Even Sandman today can be considered a short run. And I classify short runs anything that's under 100 issues. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll be covering more short runs in the future, and hopefully I'll be seeing you there. Again, please subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you liked what you saw, and remember to reach out to me at comicbook62 at gmail.com. That's comicbook62 at gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me at comicbook62 at Instagram. Well, thank you, and look forward to seeing you soon.